And back here with Dave and Tiff on another great podcast for this week. And our guest later today will be Billy Ray Stutzman, assistant coach with, unfortunately, a Navy team, football team that played their first game this past weekend on Monday, Labor Day, but suffered a tough one, 55-3 loss to BYU. And I tell you, Tiff, it's one of those games where if it's against BYU, you want Navy to win. If it's back in the old Hawaii versus BYU rivalry, you always were anti-BYU. But, this was an interesting college football game. First game for both teams. You had two head coaches that are from here, from Hawaii. The first time two Polynesian head coaches matched up against each other. First time, only the third time these two schools played against each other. I mean, there's a lot of little backstories beyond what the score was of that one.
And the fact that BYU basically lost their entire schedule that was originally for this 2020 campaign, but because of cancellations and conferences postponing or just not playing their seasons, they had to basically come up with a second schedule on the fly and credit their AD. And like you said, it was a game that had a lot of headlines, mostly with the head coaches for both Navy and BYU. Unfortunately, it did turn into, if you're a Navy fan, it did turn into a one-sided ball game. But very, very cool to see college football. Very cool to see two guys, both from here, one born and raised, one moved here when he was a little kid, and a lot of Hawaii ties from high schools on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, and one of those Hawaii ties, Billy Ray Stutzman will be joining us. Played football at University of Hawaii, now coaching in his second season as an offensive assistant over at Navy. So we'll talk with him a little bit later today. I mean, college football is underway, had some games on hand. NFL coming up this weekend. So I think a lot of people are excited. We just had our fantasy football draft earlier this morning. But the NFL hub, it's kind of interesting, but normally there's you sense a bigger prep leading up to a season. Some of the things, of course, no preseason this year, so that you got taken away. You didn't get a lot of information coming out of training camps as much as maybe you did before because of, limited access to training camps. But I think the power that the NFL, regardless of all that, and regardless of all the new protocols that is going to be happening, I think there's still a lot of excitement for NFL and a lot of eyes to see how this will go, just like for college football. How will this go?
Definitely. It's going to be a lot. It's going to be some of the same like it is with Major League Baseball, but it's also going to be different because you're not just going to be restricted to your in-division games and crossing over into the same division, but in the other conference. There's going to be a lot more travel. Guys are going to have to be tested on the regular, as they have been for both the NBA, NHL, MLB, and of course the NWSL and the MLS. It's
a lot of letters there.
A lot of letters there, and you feel for those undrafted free agents. You feel for those late picks in the draft, just because a lot of these guys that aren't high valued picks, they make their calling and they make the roster based on how they do in the preseason games, and whether guys are, the third or fourth string at their position, or if they make a special teams unit. Using the preseason is key for a lot of these guys. You feel for some guys that would normally make rosters in other years, but don't have that opportunity because there are no preseason games to test and show their coaching staffs what they can do.
Yep, so it'll be a little bit of a gamble there. And connected with NFL, Marcus Mariota put on the injured reserve list with a pectoral injury, and he'll be out for like 3 weeks. That is, it's one of those things, and we're going to go to Billy Ray Stutzman in a moment, but he's one of those guys, and you hear about athletes who just get the injury bug year after year after year, and Marcus Mariota, unfortunately, has had that, seems like, some kind of injury where he has missed games. I don't think in his entire NFL career has he been healthy for all the games in a season. So he will have to start on the IR this coming football season. But we have in our waiting room our guest for today, who's at least had a day to recover from their first game of the season on Labor Day, which was Navy taking on BYU. And joining us from Annapolis is assistant coach for Navy, Billy Ray Stutzman, a former collegiate player here at the University of Hawaii, a great prep career here also at St. Louis. And want to thank Billy Ray for joining us. Billy, can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I got you loud and clear. Appreciate you having me.
All right. Well, it's been a day since that game. And, obviously we're all excited to watch it. I mean, obviously the outcome wasn't what you wanted, but give me a little bit of a background, because on TV, the announcers were talking about how you guys as a coaching staff, head coach Ken Niumatalolo, went with that conservative practice route of no hitting or very limited hitting, no live scrimmaging. And he openly said that's what affected how we played. And I read that you guys are going to kind of be changing how you guys practice starting from this week. Is it going to be a significant change in terms of what you do? Is it back to normal, or is it kind of a hybrid?
I think it's going to be a little bit of a hybrid starting now, going into tomorrow and the following weeks. We're focused. Coach Niumat put together a great plan as soon as the team came back to campus, came back on the academy, to always put the player safety first. And, we did a lot more mental work over the past month leading up to BYU, and, set aside, the physical part of things, but wanted to put the player safety first and foremost, and really focus, on knowing their assignments, getting the plays down, more mental than physical. And I think leading it into this weekend and the rest of the season, we'll be kind of combining a little more physicality to the game, and a little bit of normality, I should say, from last year to this year. It's such a weird circumstance that we're in right now. It's, you kind of have to step back from the game and kind of analyze it from every angle nowadays.
You talk about how different it is, and you can only have to be there to really realize how different it really is. First of all, during game day, are you on the sideline or are you in the booth?
I'm in the box right now. Okay,
so give us a little taste of how different it was on that game day, because no fans. What was game day like in terms of the preparation? How different was it in terms of the team's preparation for a game than it is normally?
I think the biggest change was doing all our position meetings, all our team meetings virtually. Usually you get to look guys in the eyes, you get to see their reactions, you get to talk to them face to face, where now you're looking at a screen most of the day. And, that's how we've been doing a lot of our meetings. So I think that aspect is different as it is. And then, walking into the stadium, usually, we have our walk where the band is playing, you got fans, you got the cheerleaders around, and it kind of gives you, okay, it's game time, where, Monday we walked into an empty stadium, you got to bring your own juice, and it was quite the difference. Everyone is wearing masks and whatnot, and your social distancing and everything. So it's a completely different feel than what we're used to. But no matter the circumstance, no matter what's going on, when kickoff goes, we just got to be ready.
To not have the brigade, Billy Ray, to not have the brigade in the stands, in that corner, being so loud during home games, was that a noticeable, I wouldn't say noticeable difference in terms of the game, but just in terms of the environment and the surroundings and the atmosphere?
Yeah, the atmosphere was it's completely different. Nice background, by the way, love it. But not having the brigade there, and then of course not having the fans there, it's a whole different feeling to the game. It doesn't have that electric feel as you would with the stadium packed, as we did all last year. You got guys cheering on the sideline now, you got your own teammates with you. That doesn't change, but from a standpoint where you don't have the brigade right there pumping you up, it is a completely different atmosphere.
Biggest adjustment from week 1 to week 2, what do you see it as?
I think, we just got to get the speed of the game down. I think that's the biggest change up. It's so hard to replicate the true speed of the game when you're out there under the lights. I think that's the biggest adjustment. I think Coach Niumat will adjust accordingly. He will adjust accordingly. He's very adaptive to what goes on, not only game to game, season to season. So, you know, just understand this is a whole new situation for everybody in the country. I think, you know, now that we understand we got one game under our belt, you know, we're going to learn from it and just get the next one.
We're here with Billy Ray Stutzman, offensive assistant with Navy midshipman. And, you know, Billy, fans are so eager to have had football finally come back. But obviously, as coaches and players, I'm kind of thinking that there was a lot of anxiety, maybe even earlier on, like, are we going to play? The decision was made, you guys will play, so you can move forward from there. But what was kind of the tenor leading up to this first game between coaches and players, the situation, the conditions, my health, your health, that kind of thing? What was kind of the general feeling of players and coaches leading up to all of this?
You know, leading up to it, we felt comfortable with what we were doing. You know, obviously, Coach Nima put in a great protocol as soon as the guys got on campus. He put together a great plan, always looked out for the players' safety first. You know, we're in accordance to all the AAC, their testing guidelines. So, you know, we're getting tested multiple times a week leading up to games. So I think, you know, everyone was kind of at peace with the safety aspect, just the protocols that was put in place, that the things that we're doing as a team, you know, practice social distancing, wearing a mask, you know, when we're around each other. So from a player safety standpoint, I believe everyone was feeling good about it. You know, I can't say for the other points of the aspect of the game, but as far as player safety, I mean, I believe that we're on top of it, everything moving forward.
Billy, I know both your folks, William and Ramona. They've been big supporters of you throughout your high school and collegiate career, now into coaching. How are you able to still stay in touch with them, being so far from them, from home?
Just like we are here, Zoom calls, FaceTime. You know, I talk to my parents at least once a week, a couple times a week. I talk to my brother a couple times a week. But, you know, FaceTime, luckily we have technology nowadays where we could, you know, we're not physically with each other's presence, but being able to see someone's face on a screen, you know, it helps that much more rather than a phone call. So, you know, over the past few years where I've been away from my parents, been away from my brother, that's kind of the basis of communicating.
It seems like every home game or every game that Navy has, Coach Ken always has that very nice sleigh. Where does he get his sleigh?
Shoot, that's a great question. You might have to ask his wife, Barbara. She, you know, she has some connections around here, but that's a great question. I would love to know that too.
Hey, Billy, so here's the thing now. Do you kind of help oversee the receivers, since that's kind of your background? Just curious as far as your coaching responsibility.
Yeah, so, you know, I help out with the receivers, help out with the quarterbacks. You know, I mainly deal with the pass game because obviously these guys on the offensive side of the ball, they have a lot more knowledge, more than I could ever learn when it comes to the option game. So I let them do what they do. And then, you know, when it's time to, you know, when they ask for my opinion, I chime in with the pass game and, you know, help out with receivers, critiquing them and what.
Okay, then here's a question here. Which was more challenging for you, would you say? Getting adjusted to living in Annapolis, or trying to keep receivers motivated in an offense that's very run-oriented? Which is more challenging for you?
I would have to say moving here and getting adjusted to the climate and you know, how the academy works, because when it comes to that sense, you know, our receivers coach here, Coach Yukaitis, he's been doing this 7-8 years, and he's been doing a great job keeping those guys motivated. So I'm actually learning from him how to keep these guys motivated on a day in, day out basis of playing in the option offense. You know, you may only get 3, maybe 4 or 5 shots a game when the ball comes your way as a wideout. So, you know, I actually look up to Coach Yukaitis a lot when it comes to keeping guys motivated, keeping guys chomping at the bit, and really coaching toughness of the blocking aspect of this game.
Now, your brother Craig, obviously coaching now first year over at Washington State, and as it stands so far, Pac-12 not playing in the fall, they're saying possibly a spring thing. How's he handling? So excited to be there for the first year, and they can't play. I mean, how is he doing over there?
I think he's doing all right. He's still learning to getting to know the guys up there. Getting to learn the team, the quarterbacks on a personal level. I think that's kind of helping them in that aspect. But I know he's eager to get out to the field. Every time we talk, he's like, "Oh man, I wish I could be out there with you guys." But I'm sure they have a good plan in place to come back to football. But they're enjoying their time up there, and I know it's tough for them, but I know they're going to be ready once whenever that first kickoff is.
December 12th in Philadelphia. I know I can see you grinning because you know how big of a game that is to not just the football program, but to all Navy supporters and alumni. For you guys to sing second this year and to keep that star on that polo shirt you have with the N logo, what's it going to take to beat Army? Because they looked really good in week 1.
They did. Obviously they got a great coaching staff. They run a similar system. They got great players. That's always going to be a hard-fought battle. I think just going out, obviously it's a long season up until then. We got to stay healthy first and foremost, and come up with a great game plan where our guys can execute and play fast. We always want our guys to feel comfortable going into a game with a game plan, understand the plays, where to go, and I think putting together a great game plan where obviously the quarterback understands and the rest of the offense understands. That's a huge aspect of the game. So I think staying healthy and coming in with a game plan that our guys can execute at a fast and high level, that's always the game there.
Billy Ray Stutzman joining us here on the Dave and Tiff Sports Podcast. Final question there, Billy. If we ever get a chance to head out to Annapolis, where's the place to go? Where's the place that we can get some good grinds, good atmosphere out there in that neck of the woods?
Oh, man, there's so many good food places down here. Obviously being from Hawaii, I always got to find some seafood. So coming up this way, it wasn't hard to get away from it. There's a lot of great blue crab places, but I would say Pfeiffer's is one of my favorite places up this way that they have a array of seafood that you can choose from. There's a lot of local owned places that are downtown right outside the academy. Right outside the gates, you walk 5 minutes and you reach a lot of places. I'm coming off blank. Actually, my wife and I just went to, Federal House last night. They have really good fish and chips, really good crab cakes. But I mean, there's not a shortage of food places down this way. I promise you that.
Oh man, okay. Now you made all our mouths water for
I need my crab
seafood,
cakes.
and I love seafood. Woo! Hey, Billy, thank you so much for taking some time and continued success. And I tell you what, I totally respected how you guys prepared for this game in terms of what you felt was important, and it's good to hear. It's refreshing to hear. I think that what Coach Ken Niumatalolo said, that from the get-go, the priority was the safety and health of the players, and regardless of what happened in the game, that was always the priority. And I think that has to be so respectful, and it was refreshing to hear. And thanks for joining us on this podcast today.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dave and Tiff. I appreciate you guys having me.
Anchors away. Thank you, Billy.
Billy Ray Stutzmann, all the way from Annapolis, assistant coach over for the Naval Academy, and they took it in the chin on Monday, but they actually have a 1-week reprieve because their next game was supposed to be against, I believe it was Temple, and then that game got postponed because Temple had some issues with COVID-19, so they got another week before they have to play Tulane. So that's going to be kind of good for them that, they can have a little week in between. They can get back to live scrimmaging and all that kind of stuff, and then be more ready for that next game.
He started to talk about seafood, and I was thinking he was going to go straight to crab cakes, and he did. And full disclosure, my father's side of the family, he's a third-generation Naval Academy graduate. He was not very happy with the results for Monday. I still got to call him and make sure he's okay, because it is just one game, and the most important game of their season is that Army-Navy game. Yep. And if you can sing second, that's the one game to win every single season, because you get bragging rights over your brothers. And if you can find a way to beat Air Force and you get the Commanders-in-Chief trophy, you've had a good season. So go Navy, beat Army.
I love watching that game. And, you know, there's always the argument, what is the greatest rivalry? You know, Alabama, Auburn, USC, UCLA, Oklahoma, Texas, Army, Navy is always brought up, Harvard, Yale. You know, those historic ones like the Harvard, Yales, Army, Navy, those go back almost to the turn of the century. So how long-lasting are those things? And the fact that the military academy brings another layer of respect and rivalry that I think is unmatched. So I've always said that if there is the greatest rivalry, I'll always vote Army Navy.
I will agree. Again, go Navy, beat Army. Sing second.
Hey, you know what's interesting, Tiff, is by the way, we're going to have an MMA report, but before we do that, I just wanted to go over, here's interesting, the new protocols the NFL is going to put on for this upcoming season, you know, because of the pandemic and stuff. So of all the 32 teams, only 5 teams are allowing fans into their stadiums. And a lot of it is because what states they're in and what is allowed. Mm-hmm. So that has something to do with it. No mascots or cheerleaders.
Or for the most part, even sideline reporters as well. So it's throwing a caveat into how people that are on the sidelines doing the reporting for TV or radio, how are they going to get those instant reports that we always hear on a game basis?
I know. No cheerleaders. Ouch. Okay. The coin toss is only going to be 1 player from each team. So they're going to, you know, instead of sometimes you have 4 or 5 for a team, they're going to make it a smaller thing. Everyone has their designated water bottle. You can't just grab anyone. When they have road teams, when they're on the road, they have to have 3 rooms kept empty. In other words, when they book their hotel, 3 of them have to be empty rooms just in case there is someone that tests positive on their travel party and they can isolate. So that is a requirement by the NFL. Here's the one that personally I didn't think had to be a protocol, but when they shower in their facilities, you have to shower 6 feet away from another person. Personally, I wouldn't want anyone else within 6 feet of me when I'm showering, so that would not be a problem for me.
And again, like you had mentioned, you mentioned earlier, you talk about the NFL, but how about college football and the fact that there's going to be certain schools, and you look at LSU, their stadium, Tiger Stadium, aka Death Valley, holds over 102,000, and at 25% capacity, you still have a little under 26,000 that they're going to have at home games. 5 home games for them this season. All it's going to be the SEC. Curious to see not so much what it looks like, because we've seen certain games like Marshall had a home game this past week and they had fans. It looked eerily different than what we have been accustomed to seeing. But just the fact that you're going to have 25,000, and a lot of these mid-major and lesser tier schools in college football on the FBS level, on any given day, they would kill. They would love to have almost 26,000 fans. So for a Power 5 school to have that little fans, still to get their, you know, that quarter capacity, it's great. But again, especially with what the Hurricane did to Louisiana in the last couple of weeks, and to see a game with Baylor and La Tech get canceled because of COVID-19, and many of those guys from the Ruston area had to vacate and leave because of what Hurricane Laura did to the community. It's just going to be curious to see how this moves forward throughout the rest of this 2020 campaign.
Yep, cross your fingers as everything moves forward, but I'm glad it's moving forward. Hey, let's take a little time out. Past weekend, we had another UFC Fight Night, and so here for another MMA report is Jaren Kawada.
On this week's fight card, only 7 fights due to 3 falling apart within days of the event due to COVID-19, and that doesn't include the ones that fell apart earlier in the week. So we start off the night with Hunter Azure defeating Cole Smith. Azure lost earlier this year to Brian Kelleher, defeats Cole Smith in a rebound by unanimous decision. Brian Boom Kelleher defeated Ray Rodriguez in 39 seconds via guillotine submission. Kelleher has now fought 4 times in 2020, won 3 of them, and looks for one more. He also received a Performance of the Night bonus. Andre Muniz defeated Bartosz Fabinski, another Performance of the Night. Muniz did it via first-round submission. He did it through armbar and is now 20-4 overall. Michel Pereira defeats Zelim Imadaev. Pereira, the fan favorite, he finished Imadaev in the third round submission via rear naked choke, another Performance of the Night bonus. Pereira called out Jorge Masvidal for the BMF belt after the fight. Not sure if he'll get it, but you gotta love the energy from the fan favorite. Owen St. Preux, OSP, defeated Alonzo Menefield in the co-main event. He did it in the second round by knockout and dominated the fight throughout. Menefield struggled to gain a rhythm and struggled with OSP's power. Alistair Overeem, in the final fight of the night, defeated the surging Augusto Sakai. He did it in the fifth round via technical knockout. Sakai was very strong early and looked to have the advantage, but faded late as the veteran Overeem had the better stamina throughout. He has won a fight in 4 different decades and looks for one final title shot before he retires. It will be difficult with John Jones in the mix. Winners of the night, Brian Kelleher, Hunter Azure, and Alistair Overeem. But unfortunately, the big losers of the night, Alonzo Menefield, loses momentum in the fight to OSP, and Augusto Sakai. He'll look for his opportunity next time, and I'll be back next week to recap the events of UFC Fight Night, Michelle Watterson versus Angela Overkill Hill.
Okay, thank you, Jaren, for that MMA report. Always got to stay in touch with who gets bloodied the most over the weekend. Okay, we're going to do something that we did when we had our radio show here. It's called Aladdin's Lamp. So everyone knows the story of Aladdin's Lamp. You rub the lamp, you have 3 wishes. Well, we can't guarantee give you 3 wishes, but what we do is we have 3 wishes in our lamp. We have these questions that are in our Aladdin's lamp. And so Tiff, you will pick the first, I'll pick the second, and then Tiff, you'll get the third. And these will be in the form of wishes, and which wish would you choose? So Tiff, there are 6 questions in our Aladdin's lamp. Which number would you like to go with first?
I will go with number 3.
Number 3. Whose autographed jersey do you wish to have? Your options are Michael Jordan's Wizards uniform, Tom Brady's Buccaneers jersey, Wayne Gretzky's New York Rangers jersey, or Roger Clemens' Toronto Blue Jays jersey. Now notice the jerseys are the teams they probably are least known for being a part of, but which autographed jersey would you want?
This one's a little interesting, and that's an interesting question. I'm gonna go on a limb. I'm gonna be a little bit different. I'm gonna go with the hockey sweater, and I'm gonna go with Wayne Gretzky and his New York Rangers. I know he began his career with the Oilers and ended up with the Kings, but to have an autographed jersey from the great one, I'm gonna go with Wayne Gretzky.
Good choice. He might be arguably where if people want to say who is the greatest player of a sport, I think there is a lot of support for Wayne Gretzky being that. Heck, his nickname was the Great One, so how do you deny that one? Okay, I am going to go, I got the second wish, I'm going to go with number 6. And the question is, if you are a sports agent and you could sign any pro athlete, who would it be? So an active pro athlete. You know what? I'm almost tempted to want to say LeBron James, but I'm actually going to go with Patrick Mahomes. Because I'm thinking, first of all, he just signed this darn mega deal. Now, maybe as an agent, since that's already signed, if I were to become his agent, I don't get any part of that. Or maybe it's an annual per year thing. But he's a young athlete who has star power, but he has a lot of upside. So there's going to be a lot more commercials and endorsements, possibly at least, hopefully another Super Bowl and added bonuses. So as an agent that can get 10% of all of that, I might go with Patrick Mahomes.
I could see a Lamar Jackson for Baltimore. I could also see, I know this is going to pain you, I could also see Jaylen Brown of the Boston Celtics, Jason Tatum as well. Many of these young guys, especially from Portland, say like a CJ McCollum or a Damian Lillard, There's a whole lot of choices, but you have a very good choice with Pat Mahomes.
Yeah. I think the younger, the better. Okay, the last wish in Aladdin's lamp for you. What number? There's 1, 2, 4, and 5 remaining.
2.
The deuce. Okay. If, not that you weren't, but if you could be an elite pro athlete, what sport do you wish it would be?
Baseball. It would be baseball. Baseball, hands down. You have arguably the longest career. Of course, depending by position and what team you play on. But yes, I know you can make a lot of football. You can make a lot of money in football. But your shelf life in terms of your career, outside of Tom Brady, of course, he's in what, year number 21, it seems, almost like 30. But I think in terms of baseball and just how long of a career you can play, and hey, maybe you can have a sports agent that can back in your career, your contracts, so that you can maybe have like a Bobby Bonilla contract where you're getting $1 million per year, even though you've been out of the game for what seems like an eternity, and you're still going to get that money for the next, 10, 15 years?
Doesn't baseball make the most average salary out of all the major sports?
It's pretty close. And hey, when Mike Trout is getting almost $400 million for his contract, I will take baseball any day.
I would have been baseball, or I might have picked golf, because golf you can have, again, this is elite. If you're an elite one, you can make a lot of money in golf, and then you can be playing golf into your 40s, so that kind of thought. And you get to wear nice clothes, and you get to schmooze around on the course and take people's money that way as well. So maybe golf would be my thing, especially because I'm so sucky at it now. That would be something of a dream for me. Hey, one more thing, Tiff, and that was Aladdin's lamp, by the way. Good 3 wishes we had. NBA playoffs to kind of final things out here. Your Boston Celtics are leading the Toronto Raptors 3-2, and they could close it out today because they're playing today. My LA Lakers up 2-1. I got to talk a little bit about the Miami Heat, because
your son still follows the Heat, right?
That's his team. The one who gives our MMA report. He loves the Miami Heat, so he's pretty doggone happy. But who would have thought, of all the teams to have be the first team to secure a spot in the conference finals, it would have been the Miami Heat, who are the 5th seed, and taking out the Milwaukee Bucks in that manner. I don't think, if you're a bet man, if you put money on the Heat, you probably made some money.
Well, I'm sure Jalen and Jacoby, you look at Jacoby on that podcast and on that TV show, they were very high on the Miami Heat, and the fact that they were able to take advantage of an Indiana Pacers squad that didn't have Sabonis, won that series in 4, and they looked very good doing it. And then, of course, Giannis goes out with his injury, and the fact that you don't feel sorry for your opponent. And the fact that they go out and it was a dominant series. Yes, they lost a game, but the fact that they were able, they are 8-1 and heading to the conference finals. And so I think for the Heat, they have been one of these stories, not just in the overall bubble, but of this playoffs here in 2020.
Yeah, and I think they're fun to watch. They are a team in the sense that, you can't key on, there's no 1 or 2. Jimmy Butler, people might point to him, but he's not like a star Giannis Antetokounmpo, LeBron James type of scorer. He can be, but really, it's like any of them can score. And I think a key player for that team is not just Jimmy Butler and his leadership, but Tyler Hero. I mean, here's a guy that can come off the bench who's only in his rookie year, a one-and-doner. So he had graduated from high school only 2 years ago. But he gives you such good quality minutes off the bench. And here's this young guy that can do it. I mean, so that depth they add, I think it's really fun to watch them play. And I think whether it's the Celtics or the Raptors, player per player, they're not going to match up particularly against the Celtics. But as a team, that they're going to be a tough out no matter who they play.
Bam Adebayo has looked good in the post.
Yeah.
Kendrick Nunn was one of the finalists for Rookie of the Year. Goran Dragic, who was a former All-Star, he has done very well. You talked about Tyler Hero. How about Duncan Robinson? Dude goes from D3 to D1 in his senior year, a little under 9 points per game at Michigan. He's undrafted, and he goes on to be one of the top three-point shooters in terms of three-pointers made this season. And not enough credits has been given to Eric Spoelstra in what he has done, not just this season, but in years past. Arguably a Coach of the Year favorite nearly every single season.
I think they're going to be a team that, when you look at how you talk about the New England Patriots culture in the NFL, I think the Heat are going to be this team where people are going to talk about the culture that Eric Spoelstra has developed and the players have embraced. And I think Jimmy Butler has kind of made that point that he wanted to play on a team that had this work ethic culture, and he seems to be having a good marriage being a part of that Miami Heat team. So we look forward to the playoffs. Also, Clippers leading the Denver Nuggets 2-1. They're playing today in their fourth game as well. Well, another good podcast here. We did our Aladdin's Lap. I want to thank Billy Ray Stutzman for joining us all the way from Annapolis. Good luck to them, and also head coach Kenny Niumatalolo as they proceed in their college football season, and looking forward to that Army-Navy game coming up later. Thanks, Tiff, to you, and also to all of our followers. If you want to catch us on Facebook and the video portion, go to our Facebook page at Dave and Tiff. Otherwise, go to our YouTube page. Also, wherever you get your podcast, Spotify, the audio version, you'll get it there. Spread the word as well. So until next time, our next podcast, for Tiff Wells, Dave Kawada saying so long and be safe.
Bye. Wear that mask.